You're listening to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Podcast, the podcast that keeps your practice sharp and your clients happy. I'm your host, immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and every week we're bringing you insights, tips, and real-world conversations with top immigration attorneys and industry leaders. Whether you're here to grow your practice, stay on top of the latest trends, or get inspired, you're in the right place. Ready? Let's go. Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 416 of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. A great episode. We're starting to do a regular monthly one with Ruby Powers, who's got her own podcast, book, and a lot. Right now, as I'm recording this, she's in the fall conference in Boston. It should be a lot of fun. And it seems like it's going to be a fun bash. I couldn't go, but hopefully next year. We talk about a lot of interesting stuff. It's specific the details that you could use for your office management and practice when it comes to AI usage, when it comes to newsletters and marketing, and a lot more details. I think we spilled the beans on some stuff that's like inner workings of our operations. I think be really helpful. I want to do more podcasts like this because it's going to be more enticing for us to listen to the whole thing. It's like, oh, this is really good information that's being put out. So we're definitely going to do that. You're going to enjoy it. Thank you for listening. And speaking of good information, issue number 10 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox is out. You can go to our website, immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, and click on the magazine tab to see that and the back issues. There's a lot of information. Great colleagues have helped put articles, and we're going to have another one coming out for fall. This was a summer edition. So I got the train rolling to try to do it quarterly. I've been wanting to do that for years. Honestly, a monthly would be great, but it's a lot of work doing these magazines. And, it couldn't be done without you reading it, without the people and colleagues who participate and give articles. Plus, our wonderful sponsor, e-immigration by Serenade, who's been supporting us for a while on a lot of the endeavors, this podcast in particular, and in the issue number 10 of the podcast. And they're doing a really new endeavor where they're helping out clients or helping out colleagues who have issues with clients and practice of immigration law. Because, after 15 plus years of immigration law practice, I know that the better we manage stress, the better we're able to serve our clients. That's why e-immigration is teaming up with performance psychology pro Nikola Milenkovic to deliver a free webinar that's all about real tools for managing stress. You'll learn how to fix your mindset, your focus, and culture, and see how culture plays a role in how you show up and when the stakes are high, how to deal with those stakes. We're going to go way beyond simple wellness tips. I'm not going to be hosting it or speaking, but he's going to go way beyond that stuff. Please go to get.eimmigration.com/events to save your seat and your sanity. That's get.eimmigration.com/events. So thank you for them. And in addition to the magazine, the podcast, regular information, we have our community page is growing 300 plus, 350 plus members now. And the more people go there, the more activities happening. I'm trying to post there a lot and add more content between all the things we're doing. So I think you're getting a lot from it. It's free. All you got to be is be a lawyer, not even an immigration lawyer, just a lawyer, private bar, US. Email me with your bar info or just go to our website, go to our community page, and you can fill it out there. I like to vet people in a sense, like make sure that bar info is correct and name is who they are to the extent you can. But at least to keep it a business location there. The website has at immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com is the community page link. So please click on that. And in their site, you can find videos, training sessions, premium courses, all these things to help you. You can reach out if you have more questions about those. Having said that, none of the information here is intended as individual legal guidance. Please consult with an attorney about your case, but y'all know that already. Let's get it started. Hi, Ruby. Thanks for coming on the show again.
Thanks, John. Always a pleasure.
Well, we had some tech stuff I want to get into, and we'll definitely talk about new softwares that you're experimenting, you heard about to make practice management better. But last Friday, this is September 9th, we're recording this, they updated the rules BIA did where if you're EWI, enter without inspection, then you're subject to indefinite what's called detainment. And that creates a lot of issues. How do you manage telling clients that? Should they leave or stay? And then the other practical aspect is they had 50,000 beds. They made it 100,000 based on a new big beautiful bill. But there's that 100,000 going to fill up really quick if they start enforcing it like this, and it's indefinite. So it's not like they're leaving; new beds are opening up. How does this all square up with your practice and accepting these cases? So I don't know where you want to start with that. I know you're on NPR this morning talking about a case, but regarding a young woman who was just removed, who had children here. Please let me know your thoughts on how to handle that as practice management perspective.
Yeah, so a lot to unpack, John. So, like on Friday night, I I got in the mail a notice that my stay of deportation was denied even 2 days prior. but ICE didn't email me, call me, tell me in any way. They decided to mail it to me, but my client was already gone to with the motion to reopen was too late, unfortunately. So I'm been sort of impacted by that the last couple of weeks, working hard on that case. But I think that sort of tells the story of where we are. There's a lot of detention happening, right? We have about 60,000 people, immigrants detained and rising all time numbers. And yeah, that bill gives them a lot more funding. They're like Fort Bliss, El Paso area here in Texas, where I'm in Houston, but I think they have 1,000 beds. They're trying to get it up to 5,000. So you can sort of see where they're going with things. And then this BIA decision comes out, when we're all trying to like unplug for the weekend, right? I was
Yep.
talking to it was Arvin. I was talking to Arvin, and he goes, I'm reading this case, and I'm like, which case? And then I was like, thanks for easing on into this weekend with the horrible news. And so it basically states that judges don't have authority ability to give people who entered without inspection EW bond, that they're not eligible for bond. And so even last night, I was on a call with an attorney who said their client was eligible for bond on Friday morning, but unfortunately, their hearing was on Monday morning. And so therefore, they were denied bond. And so, what I see with clients when they're detained is that they lose their will to fight. They get demoralized. They often they don't have the resources to cough up the legal fees. It's enough to try to get out on bond and then pay the bond fee. With bond is you have to pay all at once unless you use some type of a limited bond company, but unlike criminal bonds. But this means you have to strategize, collect documents, organize, represent them, all while detained. And very likely they're going to stay detained for 2 to 3 to 4 months. And then if you don't win, do you want to appeal or not? And the other thing we're seeing is that there was 700 judges at the top of the year. Now it's down to 600. But the other thing in the news this last week ish was that they were going to start putting up to 600 military lawyers as to judges. And so you can sort of see a lot of the moving parts where, like, increase the beds, make the case law more stringent, try to get more judges in place to try to create this huge deportation machine. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the detained work is where where business is going to be in immigration, but I just don't think it's just a lot of work emotionally, physically, time. I'm My office is located 1 hour to two different detention and 30 minutes to another. But just even how easy that is to get there, which isn't, you have to get there, wait, uh, see the client. You don't have your phone. You don't have like any most devices with you. It's sort of a time warp, and then often I'll just lose track of an hour. I'll be gone inside. And then I come back out and have to drive all the way back. And so that's why a lot of attorneys don't, I think, do this work for many different reasons. It's not financially keys. It doesn't help pay the bills for all the amount of
Yeah.
work that you and the clients don't have the funds for that. But anyway, so that's a little snapshot of what I think we're seeing. And I think in general, as one has a full service practice, I think I just sort of see us as like surgeons or specialists who are just have to triage, figure out who we can save, minimize the damage. And, I don't know if I've said this too many times, but I feel like I'm like one of those surgeons on the battlefield in MASH.
Yeah.
And like, we're in a difficult situation, but you still try to keep a sense of humor and fight every day and you're surrounded by seriousness.
Well, I think you and I are the last age group where remember what MASH was. I think people MASH was a
Well,
big
maybe
TV show back
hopefully
in the day.
somebody gets it. Hopefully
Yeah.
somebody gets
I
it.
remember when I was a kid, as soon as the music would come on, I'm like, "What is this?" And then when I was older, I caught on, like, "Oh, it's a
Yeah.
pretty good show." But the intro music when I was smaller was just like, "Oh, this is awful. What
Yeah.
is this?" It didn't really. It was a comedy, essentially. It
Oh
was like, I mean, it
god,
was comedy and serious, but it was a really good, well written
right.
show. But
Yeah,
that's
really
it.
well.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to deal with in that kind of laughter in the midst of the insanity of it. I mean, we got bombarded with three separate ones. First, the no bond if you're EWI. Appeals courts at Alligator Alcatraz. It's okay to go, and then
Oh,
there was
reinstate,
come
yeah.
back. Yeah, and then there was a third thing. So it was like yeah, there's
Supreme
three.
Court, racial
Yeah, Supreme
profiling
Court said
okay
racial
or
trial.
something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, they'll
Yeah,
just
I
pick
can
you up because
only
you look. They'll put you. Who knows? You might be a citizen. They might detain you forever and send you to get alcatraz so that they realize that they made a mistake. And so it's like, wow, this is like catastrophic for Americans. Like this is like not the way to go when it comes to doing this stuff.
and I think I can only handle one bad news a day, but, like, there was also that they were going to arm, USCIS
Yeah,
officers or something like that,
it's
special
like
agents for fraud. That was this in the last couple of days. They're also going to make the naturalization, exam harder because it's quote unquote "too easy,"
yeah.
and and the neighborhood background checks that they haven't used since 1991. I don't
Yeah,
know,
I
those are just
studied
amid the
the
headlines I can remember.
in that one, I studied in the memo at the issue, the links that they had, and there was reports on this, and
Uh-huh.
it said the stuff that they're trying to do right now. Back then, in the reports, Department of Justice reports, it doesn't make sense because it creates inconsistent adjudication. So there's it's,
I can
they
imagine.
the stuff they're doing now, they've done it before, it didn't work. That's why I stopped doing it. Not that they're cheating the system. so yeah,
That's a good point to
this kind of a
mention. Like, why
yeah.
has it been dormant for 30, or however many years, It's probably good reason.
Yeah, I mean, we had a Republican president. Trump was here last time. I mean, there's reason why it doesn't work, and there's no resources. It just doesn't make sense, especially nowadays when you do background checks. So if people aren't paying their taxes, they'll just click a button. They'll know if they have bad credit. So if you go to their work or their neighbors, it doesn't really give much information. Most people don't even talk to their neighbors. They don't even know what's going on. So it doesn't. There's nothing helpful that comes from doing that. If, in most cases.
And the crazy thing is I've been to so many meetings and things today, like at a 7 a.m. BNI meeting that I was at this morning. I met a lady who said that happened to her back in the 90s when she applied for naturalization. They did a neighborhood check. And I was like, whoa, this is so crazy. I've actually met someone this happened to because we weren't practicing back then. We were
Yeah.
we little kids.
So, what do you do with? We're going to talk a lot about the tech systems, and particularly for intake that you're setting up in your office. That could come into place if people
Yeah.
contact you, usually as family members, friends, and say, my buddy, my cousin is detained." But how do you make the process more efficient so it's more financially palatable and mentally palatable? Because we have a million stuff on our plate, and add this craziness, there's overwhelm that happens. Not all about dollars and cents, just like personally, physically, it gets overwhelming to deal with all
Yeah.
the responsibilities. What have you been up to in last month since we talked when it comes to creating better systems?
Well, I know we were talking about how we should like check each other's businesses out or do like secret shopper or something. And you gave me like a little loom on my website. So thank you. You're very consistent and I appreciate that. And I sent it to my team. I was like, do whatever John said. So we've been sort of just like looking through where are all the sources of our leads from like all the different social media. I was mentioning we were putting a bot on a lot of our social media as well. I was in the nitty gritty on a call today about like how do we track where the leads that come from the bot how do we know where those people come from? And a lot of times people say website or Google or I don't know, referral, but that doesn't really help me. You really want to know where. And we were talking about like pixels and just do we make a special form that's for that particular bot slash social media, like if a bot from Facebook that goes to this
hmm
this form. And then also, like, do we push them to filling out a contact form or just go straight to scheduling a consult? But you want to make sure that if they don't schedule the consult, you still get their contact. So, anyway, like, there's a lot of little nitty gritty and thinking that through because you might have built out a system, over here, and now you have some new technology over on the other side, but you haven't reconciled it. Like for example, what's important to me is that no matter where we get information, it gets into our universe, like from all the different leads. But it also gets added to our newsletter because we send a newsletter out in English and Spanish every other week. So that's some of the stuff. Like we've been working on our lawmatics and our flows. We had a meeting with lawmatics recently to clean up some forms. Um, let's see. I'm really curious about like how many receptionists do we really need? Because every once in a while someone says, I can't get through to you. And I'm like, I have 2 full-time receptionists and I have a reception service. Like,
It shouldn't be
really?
possible to
And
not get through. Yeah,
and then the reception service has multiple people that answer the phone. So like, sometimes I'm wondering who is it real or not, but we're
yeah.
still, we're working on that. We're cleaning house. It's just it gets annoying. But you're right. Like people reach out to you all different places, right? They could be LinkedIn, WhatsApp, text, all your social media, and like trying to get that communications central because my team knows what to do once it gets into that pipeline. So those are some of the things we've been doing to try to clean up those systems from the intake.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I've been exploring is how best to uh, take in my intake notes. I interviewed Hillary Bowman with Quirius, who was the Startup Alley winner at the ABA Tech Show this year. She also is being honored as an innovator spotlight in Boston this week with the ALA Fall Conference, and I was really curious about how she made the product, and it's quite fascinating. And it's made for lawyers, and it helps give a summary and a report, and but it doesn't record everything. But there's a lot of ethics and security put in mind in that. Um, Last year, I was on a panel with Guillermo Hernandez and Bridget Bennett and myself, and he talked about how he used the High Doc, and he would record with authority authorization. I mean, and he would run his report through an AI tool that would lead to like notes, a summary, and a contract request. And I mean, honestly, this I think is a big pain point. There's Fathom, Fireflies, Otter, you name it. There's something, but you still need to, if you create an automation, I guess, you still need to get, authority from the client. You want it to be protected. And then you need to make the notes. You need to request the contract and the next steps. And so I visited a doctor for my daughter, and the doctor, I don't know if I said this before, but she was like, I need your authority to record this conversation. So she says, is that okay? Okay. So click. And then we just talked the whole time. And I think that's what's the beauty about these tools is that we're not as going to be as worried about capturing everything and typing it up, but we're going to be able to build a connection. And actually, one last idea on that. I was just talking to the CEO of Relaw just before we started, we hopped on, and he has something similar in his program as well that has the recording and the notes and the summary. So I was talking to Greg Siskin on my podcast this recently, and I think this is really the where we're going to see a lot of innovation. Just how can we improve that intake process for attorneys in a confidential way that'll streamline our process, improve efficiency, and just also create a better client attorney client relationship.
Well, there's a lot of things I want to ask questions about that. So let's get started.
Okay, I'll stop talking.
Well, I'm going to ask a question more talking, but what big thing has stopped me from recording, and I really would like to record because there's
Yeah.
synopsis, and some colleagues are creating AI systems because I do a lot of marriage green cards, and so 90% of that consultation is the same over and over again. A bot could potentially do it. There's a human experience to bring it in there. For people who don't want to pay for a consultation because we do paid, it could be a way to get everything up and running. But one worry is the admissions they potentially may make during the meeting that'll go in some system, and the government's like Palantir is going to get it, and then we're so sometimes they'll say something like, I can't take your case, you said this crime you did, but I'm not going to go and publicize it. I can't, I'm not allowed to. But it's in an AI system. So when you mentioned Curious has some sort of backups on that, so that's something Curious, spelled Querious, generative AI. That'd be something that's interesting to look into.
Well, what she said, because I asked her a lot of questions. I was just really curious, actually. And she says they don't record, they like record, but then they don't keep a recording and they just have the summary. So, um, I mean, I think also I agree with what your concern is. And I think a lot of us have that concern because, like, we know we have the technology. Why don't we do that? I mean, we'll do that for a lot of our internal meetings,
Hmm.
but I just didn't feel right asking the clients, "Can I do this?"
Yeah.
I don't know. But then there was a lot of times where the volume has increased and I don't have time to take notes, and I don't give myself a 10-minute window to go from one consult to the next. Like sometimes I'm just going boom, 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 and I need to get all those notes in. But also there's been times where the client like tells me this amazing story and I'm like, okay, well, what you just told me, go put that in a statement. And my thought is like, if I would have just recorded that,
Yeah.
then we could have had a really good draft of your VAWA statement, your asylum statement, your whatever. But yeah, I think. I think we're just gonna have to get over our fear and sort of figure out like what's the pros and cons, like the cost benefit analysis. But no, I agree. I feel like everything's becoming like the AI of things. It's connected. People are connecting it to their email, to all their calls, so they can search and analyze. But then it's like, well, what's private anymore?
Yeah. Hey, everybody, I'm going to jump in there really quick. Thank you, Ruby, so much for having a great episode and more to come. But I remind you of our community page that has a ton of information and help for you to practice, whether you're new to the game or you've been doing it for a long time. Plus, premium courses, E2 visas, investor visas, EB1A, consular processing, marriage green cards. How do you do this all? We have the packages and programs for you to get your firm started, take it to the next level, and to keep your sanity by having more practice areas. I'm not sure if it's going to be more sanity or not, but have different practice areas to bring some money, different experiences, different knowledge. Learning new things is always a lot of fun, and we have it there for you. Please go to our website, immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, and check out the courses page, or the community page first to join the free community. There you fill out your bar info, and we get you started. Let's get back to the show. Well, the old school system was just having your assistant be there taking notes while you're doing it. And I've had it where I've had paralegals or assistants on the Zoom meeting taking notes, but a lot of times their notes weren't as good as I wanted it. So I ended up just doing my own notes. And the consultation follow, we do have a consultation follow-up email. That always takes a lot of time. If that could be automated and just auto populates that, if it saves, 10 minutes a consult, you're doing like 5 to 10 consults a week. That's an hour of thinking time where you're just like organizing that could get shaved off pretty quickly. It's probably more than 10 minutes a lot of times too, thinking about it and following up. Now,
Yeah.
you mentioned for figuring out where you got the source. I make it mandatory. So I have an intake. I use Lawmatics as well. Not an endorsement at all, but I
Mhm.
use Lawmatics as well. I say that because they do. It's a love hate relationship. But in this intake thing I created, that's internal. We have a question about their source. And so I always make sure to on my list of questions I go through. I've set it on that, so it helps me make sure I go through stuff. I don't always use it when I'm supposed to in our consultations, but
Yeah.
I ask him. I have a 5 minute, if even to go over to half an hour time, 5 minutes set up to say, hey, how did you learn about us? Because they'll say sometimes the initial call that we found you through YouTube, but then we're meeting. They'll say, oh, I saw you through Instagram, then I started following you on YouTube, and then after a while, I decided to contacted you. So that information, that transition, that Instagram is where they found us, is really a big deal because I'm realizing both for the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox and my law firm, a lot of people are searching on Instagram and finding me. And we post on Instagram because that's the thing to do. But there's a lot of people who are high value clients that do find you strictly on Instagram. And then they follow you on YouTube and get
Mhm.
attached to your newsletter, this and that. So just spending time talking with them is like, it has to be carved out. It's so important because when they tell me stuff too, it adds to that. I'm like, oh, okay, this is working too. You get personally excited to want to do it more.
No, I agree with you, and we did put it on our lawmatics to make it mandatory to but somehow there was a workaround and it wasn't mandatory. I don't know. That was one of the things I
That's
told
what
them
I
to
just gotta
figure
do it when
out.
I gotta bring it up and, like,
Yeah.
ask them because even if they tell me, because a lot of
Yeah.
times they'll say, "I found you on Google," but then when you ask them, they're like, "No, I was actually listening on." They just kind of answer something quick just to get out of the way.
Well, Google is like the best way to not answer the question
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
the internet.
yeah, the World Wide Web, like
Now, with regard to
yeah.
newsletters, this is something that I used to be very successful in converting. In the last couple months, it's like everything I do. I'll do something halfway and it works, and then one day I'll buckle down. I'm like, I'm gonna do this really good. As soon as I start, it's less effective. But a newsletter is one that was really effective. Recently, it hasn't been as effective, even though our newsletter list has grown a lot. Who do you use first of
Mhm.
all for your newsletter system?
So we use it off of Lawmatics. We were using Mailchimp, for a long time, or Constant Contact and Mailchimp. Which one? I think we were on Constant Contact and Mailchimp. I still use Mailchimp for, I think, yeah, for Power Strategy Group because it's not using Lawmatics. But yeah, we use Lawmatics, and the idea there is that the information's coming in the contact form. So, and there's a newsletter feature in it. So we just, make the automation for it to go, and then we send it out every other week. But I honestly like I could see how it feels like maybe it doesn't work, but I'm not gonna get rid of my newsletter
No,
because
it's important.
I know the calls pick up and I know especially during times when there's constant change, like that's one of the way between that and social media is how we're getting out to our clients. Like call us if this happens or do this or like letting you know. And then I feel like there's a sense of reciprocal, like that they appreciate that we're keeping an eye out on them, even if it might not even apply to them, but we're trying to give them the highlights. And Ayla does a really good job because they give us that news every business day of the highlights of immigration news. So, I mean, I'm glad I do it. I think it's also good exercise in collecting all your client contacts in one place, which, you know, I've seen where some firms, like when they're closing up, like they might sell their book of business that way, even if it's just a list of client emails.
Yeah, I agree. What happened before was every time I send a newsletter out, I get at least one person replying saying, "Oh, I want to hire you." But now I get
Uh huh.
replies, but it's kind of like keeping relationships warm and friendly with people because to them it's like you're sending it to them if they know you. It's less generic,
Mm,
and so it keeps the relationship warm for 5 years down the line for citizenship or when they finally like get meet someone overseas, they remember you. It's constantly being in their thoughts. And that's what a lot of social media is like on LinkedIn is posting enough where they're habitually seeing your name kind of like Coca-Cola that
hmm.
advertised in the Olympics. Everyone knows Coca-Cola, but they always have to keep themselves at the forefront of your head or your thought when it comes to soda, and that's how they do it. We had I was using a
That
Mailchimp, but their price went up, so I changed to Mailer Lite. And now
oh,
Mailer Lite's gone
uh
AI,
huh.
so the price gone up too. But I'm in the old system where it's the classic
Oh,
system. And what I do is with Lawmatics, I have a what is that Zapier or whatever the name is
uh
that
huh.
every time someone
Yeah.
goes into Lawmatics, it also goes to Mailer Lite, and that's where I send my newsletter from to try to keep additional backup system going on. And just like Lawmatics is a lot of work sometimes to figure it out, or it may make mistakes on it. So I'm like, I just keep that system going. So I have those kind of separate systems. That's been really helpful.
Well, I mean, I get you because, like, we were using the Mailchimp for the longest time, but then I was like, "Well, if I can reduce my costs." So as soon as you
Yeah.
take out we were grandfathered under a really good rate, but I ended up, like, just use it for, like, Power Strategy Group or something like that,
Hmm.
and we deleted the contacts we that aren't related to that, and then we started using Lawmatics newsletter because I mean, we're already paying for it. But what you were mentioning of being the top of mind, that's really where I see the biggest value of the newsletters. Like, even if they don't read it, like it goes somewhere in their inbox and they might just be like, oh, see your law firm's name for a second and be like, oh yeah, they exist. And then that working in their subconscious and then they're out and about and maybe recommend you.
But one thing I have been big on doing is like typically the average open rate on newsletters is like 30% or 33%. But I actively every couple of months will go and take out people who are not using it. And so I
Huh.
kind of have them still in the Lawmatic system as previous clients are in the system, but on the newsletter, it just cleans it up. So we have like a 60 or 70% open rate on my newsletter, which is like it's
Yeah.
really big for the field. Then my toolbox newsletter as well, which if you're a lawyer watching this, listening to this, you could join and just email me with your email address, your bar info. And it what in that way it's like really because we do sponsorships too when I tell them hey I have an 80% open rate or 70%, it's like oh dang, okay, it's 1,000 plus
Oh,
lawyers, yeah.
that's
So it helps.
yeah. That's an interesting take on it. I mean, if it looks better if you have a better open rate. Yeah.
Because at the same time they're not opening it, so I'm like, it just the number goes higher, but it's more a vanity number. I'm like, let's just keep it really clean and just it's enticing when I see a lot of them are opening it. It's like, okay, people are actually reading this, they're
Yeah.
clicking on it and stuff on the links. But it's a whole thing. I mean, to do a newsletter right, it could be like a part-time job for somebody because there's a whole science to it, and it could be your only marketing
Like,
system, could be a weekly newsletter, and that'll get you business. Just like LinkedIn alone or YouTube
mhm.
alone could be it. So I'm kind of spreading myself thin, thinking my newsletter and LinkedIn and YouTube and stuff like that. So I'm kind of jack of all trades in it. But it's a newsletter is it's old school powerful. You have that email. It can't be blocked by social media, Facebook, which is only shows 20 people your post or something like that. You could get into people's systems really well if the email is designed well, the heading being good. One thing I started doing is going back to A/B testing our titles. So I asked ChatGPT, this
Mm.
is what I'm writing in the blog in the newsletter. Say two attention grabbing subject lines, and then we A/B test where it sends like one subject line to 25% of the audience, another subject line to another 25%, and then whichever one opens more within an hour or whatever time limit I send, the next 50% will get that one. And we'll see, like it'll be like one had like a 30% open rate, one had a 52% open rate. It's pretty dramatic differences sometimes. And you're like, wow, like that's
Wow.
just wording something that first word different could open up, hundreds of people more will open up the email. It's this A/B. It gets annoying
Well,
doing this
you
stuff, but it's
really
important.
I mean, you take something and you go, like, all in. Like, yeah, I've never did AB. I don't know if I maybe my assistant did, but, like, that's really impressive. Yeah,
If
I mean, I'm
it
just
took
I
5 years of me wanting to do it, so it's eventually I got it done. But it's like 5 years on my to do list.
well, Okay, so for people not to be intimidated by the newsletter, like first you step is like go collect all your client emails or your contact
Well, let me
emails, and
pause it
then
right there.
but
Your
choose.
newsletter is your
Yeah.
business, and your family members want
Mhm,
your success. So, first and foremost, get all your family members, cousins, friends, neighbors, add them to your newsletter. Because when you get awarded like top lawyer, US News top lawyer, or what is it, best news now, whatever it is, or super lawyers, you
mhm.
want to tell them, they want to know if you have success in your firm and stuff like that. So, that's part of your newsletter. And that's your first thing because they're going to open up, like it. And the more people opening up, the more their computer systems will see people are opening this without complaining about being spam and stuff. So it's the family and friends are part of your network too. They should be in your newsletter too.
No, exactly. And Ayla's next week, I just had it open, is doing a program about like starting a law practice. And I'm going to be speaking with Charity on marketing. And that's one of the things we're going to say is like, go out there and make a contact list. So I think that's probably why it was the top of mind of all the people that you know and make sure. And I mean, it could be the start of your newsletter. And maybe you don't, if you don't want to add it, you could just email them sparingly, some of
Yeah.
those people, but making having and collecting and making a habit of collecting those contact, then choosing, is it Lawmatics, is it MailChimp, is it, all the different ones we were talking about, Constant Contact or some other program. How are you going to do it? And then yeah, you can get an assistant or you can try to do it. And you don't have to do it every other week or every week. No way. You could do it once a month, at least just getting in the rhythm of it. Um, but yeah, I forgot to mention that, John. Ayla's doing launching a new immigration practice, a live online course starting next week on September 17th. So
What is it going to be
I'm
recorded
going to be
as well, or
speaking.
just live only?
I'm pretty sure it's pre-recorded as
Okay.
well. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Now, one thing about what was I going to say? There's a couple of things actually. So one thing I started doing is segmenting the audience. So you have groups. Like
Mhm.
I did it a little bit and I
Mhm.
stopped. So when there's a specific country issue, like right now, these TPS or Venezuela and Haiti is up and they're up and down.
Oh.
If you have those kind of
Mhm.
clients, and I only have like 5 Venezuelan clients, so it's not that much of a big deal for my clientele. But if you have those, you could just send specific ones to them and not, grab all these people from France or something. That was like, well, I don't necessarily need to know about Venezuela. Um, but one
Right.
problem is I have a bad time inputting their addresses in there. And this comes a problem because I've seen you have a system where you mail out stuff. You mail out stuff to me when it happens. Do you have someone
Mm.
that goes and adds addresses and full addresses and inputs for that kind of like message
Oh
system?
yeah. So, well, we collect our clients' addresses, and so we do, and we have this master case list of all that. And so we pretty much send a holiday card to all the active clients. I think my team is tired of me doing this because they're like, "Ruby, that's old school. Why are you still doing that?"
It probably is
But
expensive, but it means more. If I could make the Toolbox magazine print, it's so expensive to do it, and I don't have enough sponsorship to. I have to jack up the price a lot. But something different about getting in the mail. It'll be on my. Sometimes it'll be on the table for weeks when you send me stuff. So it does work. I
yeah,
believe in it. It's just expensive. And I was going to say, what
yeah.
systems you use for that?
So, and then for other contacts, we try to capture address, but I think after the pandemic, again, so many people work in different places or they have an address but they don't work there,
Yeah.
so it gets a little complicated to figure out, well, where do I send something to you? But yeah, we usually start worrying about that around, I guess, October. So, we were actually mentioning that recently. But yeah, we have a system, but we're collecting it through the year, but then it's like the little elves, I guess. We have our little system to
I mean,
get
it's a whole
ready.
production. You got to make sure the info is good. It's in there.
It
It's up to
is.
date, and then you got to print. And I mean, how much? Because you said these thick paper stuff is like $1 per send, or is it more?
Oh, don't remind me how much it costs. Like, yeah. I mean, we like have a theme and then we decide like a photo and like, are we gonna have all the attorneys? Or are we gonna do what are we gonna do? And what's our message for the year? And then we agonize over the content or the copy on the back. And then we have to have it printed, by like mid-November so that I'm not paying rush prices. And then we have to have other people working on the addresses and get the stamps, like a lot of stamps. And then like a lot of people doing this don't even mail on like letters, so I don't know where the stamp goes and where to put the return address label. And then we're verifying, the assistants are verifying that that's accurate. And then we start getting them out like right after Thanksgiving. But honestly, I think it makes a difference because you stand out from all the people who send nothing or just electronic cards. And so I'm gonna try to hold on as much as I can, even if I'm fighting against my staff on this
There's a value
process.
in it because email is so cheap inevitably that when you just do a little bit extra, I mean, you might have a list of 1,000 you send out and only like, I don't say if one of them it connects with, they hire you, it kind of pays for the whole thing. But you got to spend a lot of
Yeah.
time. You got to find some time of all the system that you talked about. And so it's just a lot of work. It's daunting. It's easier to A/B test it once you know how to A/B test on these systems.
Doing your A/B testing. I feel like I need to get you a T-shirt that says "I A/B tested that." No, just kidding. Yeah, no, you're reminding me. I'm gonna have to get the contact project like full swing. Make sure
Yeah, September
we
is
got all
here.
these
Yeah, it's coming up.
addresses going. Yeah, it's basically mid September already. What the heck?
And one thing that popped up, like, there was this program called LastPass, I think it was, my wife and I did, where you pay one
Oh,
fee and you go all these exercise places in around the country in LA. There's a lot of them.
oh,
And every year at the same time, all of them would send like Christmas and my birthday. And I remember that would be like my cue to just go unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. Cause I'll send it so much at the same time. That'd be so annoying that I'm like, when I'm going to do special stuff, I won't send for Thanksgiving or holidays because that's going to be caught up in the mix of when everyone's sending it. I'm going to send it like on June 1st when like it's kind of random. It's like that way I'll know it stand out and there's less likely that people get annoyed to unsubscribe from it. So it's kind of these
well,
tactics.
so some no, you're right. Like some people think like 4th of July, they were immigration attorneys, like, I don't know, Independence Day, let's play into that or something. I don't know. Or like some people love on Halloween, like they'll have their party then because they want to avoid all the holiday parties. I my law firm was started like November 17th, 2009. So that's perfect because if I want to do an anniversary party, it's like that middle of November that's like right before Thanksgiving when everyone disappears and pieces out. And so, but then before all the holiday parties where you have like, 10 parties on one night
Mhm.
and everybody tries to do everything the first week or two of December. And then the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks of December, you're like crickets. But yeah, you can choose something and just lean into it. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day or
Have a
Valentine's
day that
Day
has
or
value to you, and
whatever.
then talk about it. It could be a
Yeah.
talking point instead of just explaining why you chose this day. Could be a thing of itself. It's like an important day for me. It's when my family migrated, or something. Who knows? Like it could be all sorts of different things.
That
But
sounds
just
a good
making it
story.
unique.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm loving that. Yeah.
that's
Or
just more
there's a lot of times
thinking.
people send holiday cards late and then they send them in January. It's like, New Year.
It kind of works though.
I,
It's like it
I,
comes
I
like,
like,
oh, okay, it's not in the
yeah, it
mix of all the
does.
holiday stuff that's coming. It doesn't get lost in the
Yeah.
mix. Because
It's
there's
like
this
you're actually
tactic
like,
where
oh,
there was one guy, I think is the guy who wrote the 2 hour work week or something like that. He was really good at
the
sales,
4 hour work
4 hour
week.
work week. And he's like,
Yeah.
what I would do
Oh, yeah.
is I'd
Uh-huh.
roll into the office at 5:01 because what would happen is everyone would be 9 to 5 calling offices try to do sales, but their secretaries wouldn't let them pass. But between 5:01 and 5:05, the secretary had left and the owner was still there before they leave. So you get directly to the decision maker. And he's like, I only work a couple minutes a day, but I'll close more than everybody because I just had that tactic of going directly to the top.
Well, it's sort of like the book Daniel Pink about like when's the best time to do
Yeah.
things. So it seems like if that was a Tim Ferriss thing, the 4 hour work week, then he basically, time hacked it and got the most out of it. So
That's
that's
probably.
awesome.
I mean, we got to roll pretty quick, but that's a lot of things in
Yeah.
life. Is just got to be very strategic. There's this one investor, Jim Rogers, I learned a lot from, and he's like a lot of people are do day trading. They're constantly buying, selling stock. He's like, I just sit in the corner and I wait 1 year, 2 year, 3 or 4 year. I just watch, and inevitably I'll see one thing that's such a good deal that if I put all in on that one or a chunk on it, it'll make as much as all these people are running like chickens with their heads cut off, running around trying to do something. So that's a tactic always try to bring in is like, how do I calm it down and just watch and make a very thoughtful step that's more meaningful than trying to do a lot, which I inevitably still do most of the time anyways. You get lost in it and there's competition, all this kind of stuff. But just be very strategic in where you put your emphasis and your time and your thought. It's really hard. But that's with the amount of junk that's gonna be created with AI. You got to be very careful of like just how much info is coming in because it's overwhelmed. When I graduated law school, I didn't practice for like 2 years, and during that time, I was reading one book a
Oh.
day. I just wanted to. I
Mm.
did a lot of crazy stuff. One of them was like one book a day I was reading, and after like a
One
year's
book
worth
a
of that,
day.
yeah, it get overwhelmed where I had like 360 books in my head all of a sudden. But I had to like I straight didn't read a book for 6 months, and I would see that information was like some weird way I was starting to settle in. I realized I was too many books to read because the information couldn't settle in and get that was
Yeah.
it messes with your head reading that much. But like it's every day and a half a book. But I was just reading all day, every day. I was just I will do that, and so it kind of blew up my brain. But at the same time, like I realized like there's only so much info you could take in. I'm not at least with my IQ level to be able to decipher and make something of it. So it's better to read like one really good book and think about it really well than just go. I mean, I did learn a lot reading all those books at the same time, so it was pretty good too.
I think my daughter told me about that she was having a book break of some sort. So maybe you invented that, but you didn't know what it was. Like I'm saturated. I can't take it anymore.
It just comes like active doing it for like just the idea of having read a lot of books. So there's like some bragging rights to that or something, but it's like it's worthless if it's not meaningful stuff coming from it. So that's why I'd like pause and let it just settle in and get the actual juice out of it instead of just collecting a bunch of lemons, just getting the juice and drinking it. But thank you, Ruby, so much for
No,
coming on the show.
yeah.
You're going to fall conference right now. By the time it's out, you're probably there. In New England's
Mhm.
having a separate conference in November too, or something like that. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I was like, this fall
Oh,
conference, and they're doing
I
it. So
spoke at yeah, so it just happens that Ayla is in Boston right now for this conference, but yeah, the New England I spoke at that conference last year was in Boston that first weekend after the election, so it was very timely moment. I remember. But yeah, there's a lot of conferences going on. This is like conference season
yeah,
and Texas Fall Conference. The Texas Fall Conference is going to be in December in Mexico, and so I'm promoting that on my LinkedIn. And then ABA Tech Show is in March, and but yeah, there's a lot going on. And thanks for having me. And I love our monthly check-ins on what's been going on. And I'm sure I'll have a lot more in about a month because I'll be attending
yeah. Take notes. Yeah,
case status conference, and I'll be going to Lex's Filevine's Lex conference and maybe some other stuff. Who knows what I'll be up to?
yeah. Please
So
take notes on this stuff. Yeah, I just email myself constantly. Then I have a Notion thing where I type this up to things to talk about. So because there's so much things that pop up, you got to like record constantly and keep it in systems. But please, yeah, do come on, tell us about all this. I look forward to our meeting next month.
sounds good. Well, take care of yourself
Thank you,
and your
Ruby.
A/B testing. Uh,
Thank you once again, Ruby. What a great episode. I was really excited. I wish we had more time. Sometimes these conversations keep going, but each of us had a hard break. I might have to Joe Rogan it and do like 3 hour podcasts eventually. But yeah, you got to be conscious. The fun stuff, the really, really fun conversation stuff happens when it's like one on one and we can talk like more detail about cases without breaking privacy requirements. So every time we talk on here, it's like bite your tongue a little bit. Like, oh, that's confidential, this, that, you can't. But we do our best. And I'm sure you enjoyed this episode. I did a lot. So thanks so much, everyone who listened. Join our community page. Go to immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, click on the community tab, and we want to have more people, more group, private group to get away from Facebook and to help you take your practice to the next level. Until the next one, have a good one. Bye bye. If you like this episode, follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, where we post the latest statistics, tips, and more. And stay tuned for more from the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast.